Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honoured now to introduce to you our next speaker, Stanislav Pavlovschi, the esteemed former Minister of Justice of Moldova and a distinguished former judge at the European Court of Human Rights. Please do join me in giving a very warm welcome to Mr. Pavlovschi. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Madame Rajavi, distinguished guests, being a former judge of the European Court of Human Rights, of course it is more usual for me to discuss legal and human rights issues. From this perspective, the current situation in Iran undoubtedly raises serious concern. The Islamic Republic of Iran's strict limitations on human rights deteriorated in various aspects through the year 2023. Women continued to face discrimination, including through enhanced means for enforcing the mandatory dress code, which led to acts of civil disobedience. At least 834 citizens were executed during the year, according to the United Nations. The judiciary and the court system are far from being objective. International observers criticized the lack of independence and impartiality of the country's judicial system and maintained that trials did not adhere to international standards of fairness. No wonder that the previous head of the judiciary, Ibrahim Raisi, who died in the helicopter crash in May, was a member of the Death Commission in Tehran during the 1988 massacre of thousands of political prisoners, as was Mustafa Pourmohammadi, who was the Minister of Justice under the so-called moderate President Hassan Rouhani. Human rights activists reported trials in which authorities appeared to have determined the verdicts in advance, and the defendants did not have the opportunity to confront their accusers or meet with lawyers. For journalists and defendants charged with crimes against national security, law restricted the choice of attorneys to a government-appointed list. Human rights groups and international media noted the absence of procedural safeguards in criminal trials. The courts routinely admitted as evidence confessions made under duress and torture. Often these forced confessions were broadcast on state television. Last summer, the regime began a sham trial for 104 members of the Iranian democratic opposition, who live mainly in Europe, especially in Albania. The judge began the first court session by saying that we are going to try these 104 terrorists, effectively passing judgment on them before the start of the trial. Furthermore, the regime has rejected a request by European and international lawyers who had requested to go to Iran to defend these dissidents. The judge and numerous other Iranian officials have repeatedly told the state media that the intention behind the trial is to obtain Interpol red notices against these 104 dissidents and have them extradited to Iran. As a former international judge, I know very well that any legitimate trial would require a presumption of innocence and the free access to lawyers. But it is clear that the regime is not interested in the rule of law. Rather, it is trying to misuse the law to extend its crackdown to its opponents living abroad. I urge all the European governments and legal and security apparatuses to reject any extradition requests from Iran that are a result of this sham trial. Of course, the abuses committed by the regime against the Iranian people are very serious and extensive. The list of these abuses is very long, but the ones I have just described are the most dangerous and require an immediate reaction from the international community. Let me say also that we are living in the 21st century. Each and every person is entitled to live in dignity, in freedom and prosperity. And I think that the time has come for Iranian people to demand its rights, because the source of state power is people. People are those to whom belong states, and you are entitled to ask your state to be returned back to you, and you to be entitled to organize your way of life in the way you wish to have it, in order to live in dignity, in freedom and prosperity. Thank you very much.